Reynard Hardware Store. It's a locally owned store which offers tools, supplies, and painting supplies. The business is located on the main street of the city. The store competes against medium and large franchises within 25 minutes of them. They've been in business for over 50 years. Still remains owned by the founder's family and retains loyal customer base. The grandson of the founders operates business now. While he appreciates his loyalty, they are not attracting younger families that live in the area or recently relocated in the area. The owner also wants to offer handy services for busy families and his loyal customers who are getting older and need trustworthy, reliable handy services. They would like to change their business name to Reynard Hardware and Services. The online presence would help Reynard Hardware and Services to increase its customer base, and also this would help the business to increase revenue and be able to compete with the larger and the medium-sized franchises in the area. In order to best serve Reynard Hardware, we brought together a team of highly qualified and motivated consultants to take their business to the next level. This team consists of 4 experienced information systems professionals, each whom will be fully committed to the successful implementation of the project within the scope. As consultants, we understand the importance of identifying our stakeholders. These stakeholders may be directly or indirectly affected by the project. Getting our stakeholders involved in a project will be very critical to the success of the project. In this case, our project stakeholders are the business owner, suppliers, financial institutions like PayPal, bank, and merchant services to be able to receive credit card transactions for payment.
As a consulting team, our next goal was to further assist Reynard Hardware by implementing an organizational structure. In order to best meet their needs, we decided to reorganize the structure of the family-run business into a functional organizational structure style, which helps to identify and solidify the core functions of this business and implement a proper chain of command up to the top. In this way, Reynard Hardware would be able to account for all facets of their business, retain their already hardworking staff, and use the resources outside the business to their maximum advantage. As seen on the previous slide, we have broken up the structure of Reynard Hardware into 5 functions, which are finance, sales and marketing, logistics and operations, technology, and HR. Each of these functions of the business are structured to share responsibility of the business, as well as provide the owner with a person accountable for each major function. Each pillar, with the exception of finance due to the confidentiality of the business, will be given the authority to hire consultants or workers outside of Reynard Hardware to deploy assets to improve the business. It is here, for example, where our handymen and handywomen will be a part of our business.
Change management is a very important aspect of a well-managed project. Change management starts with the team gathering together to outline a plan for how the team will manage change. This plan describes how all changes on the project, whether they be requirements changes, funding, resources, or other types of change, will be managed and controlled, and how the team will respond to change. A well-documented change management plan prevents scope creep. A change management plan must address the type of changes, whether they be technical, emergency, or requirement, the stakeholders who have authority to request changes, how the impact will be assessed for the change, how the cost of the change will be determined, how the change will be identified, tracked, and controlled, who will review and approve the change, and the audience the change management plan is intended for.
This slide is a formal representation of our change management plan. There are 3 phases: Phase 1, prepare to change; Phase 2, manage change; and Phase 3, reinforce change. In Phase 1, prepare for change, there are 3 distinct toll gates. Toll gate 1, request is submitted. Toll gate 2, the request is reviewed, and a go, no-go decision on the request is made. And then toll gate 3 begins with planning. The second phase is managing the change. This picks up mid-toll gate 3 during planning. This includes reviewing the sprint schedule in Epic with client. This also is a go, no-go decision on the final implementation schedule. Toll gate 4 in managed change is writing the user stories, bringing them into sprints, conducting development business as usual. And then throughout implementation, the deliverable will be evaluate and report on the status of the work and any issues encountered. It's important to notice that implementation 4, because we are an agile development group, that the change requests may have to go across multiple sprints. So tollgate 4 may go through multiple iterations. Finally, phase 3, reinforced change, has one final tollgate, and that's tollgate 5, assessment. This is where we look at the implementation results. We evaluate the process for any improvements. We assemble the results and final financial analysis into a results report, which then is provided as a deliverable to the client, and then we implement any corrective actions identified.
An important aspect of managing change is to have a defined process for receiving changes into the project. The Reynard's Hardware and Services online store project requires that a change request form be completed for every change submitted to the project. This change request form, shown here and on the next slide, includes information about the project manager and sponsor, details about the change, including the date the change is requested for, the contact information for the person submitting the change, the reason for the change, a description of the impact analysis, authorizations and approvals, and information about the change closeout. Another important aspect of change management is to have a log of all the changes that were submitted on the project. The change management log used for the Reynard's Hardware and Services online store project includes information about the change, such as a unique ID to identify the change, the title and description of the change, the date the change was submitted, the name of the person submitting the change, any risks or recommendations pertaining to the change, the owner of the change, the impact analysis including the story point count and cost, the status of the change, and any comments pertaining to the change. To date, the Reynard's Hardware and Services online store project team has received 3 requirement changes. After an impact analysis and prioritization discussion with the sponsor, it was decided that these changes will be prioritized and scheduled after Release 3.0 of the project completes.
During the creation of the statement of work with our client, Reynard Hardware and Service, we chose selection criteria to proactively manage change. This selection criteria would be used if any new requests or changes to scope occurred after the initial scope approval. This selection criteria would be used by the project manager, business analyst, and the client to review the request to see if there were changes to scope, any impact to funding, impact to the project end date, current priorities, success of the project, value added to our stakeholders, value added to our customer, or current technology. The project manager, business analyst, and the stakeholders would score low, 1, or high impact, 5. The project manager would complete the score evaluation comments to track why we scored the selection criteria for that request. Also, the project manager, business analyst, would address any risk and any needed mitigation strategy. From here, the decision can be made whether or not to move forward with the implementation.
Importance of change management. First, we'll look at managed change in a project versus unmanaged change in a project. So in a managed change, there's energy invested at the front end. There's more focus on education, communication planning, and value-added changes that will benefit the project. Not every change is bad, so when the changes are managed, the team can easily analyze which changes will benefit the project and which of them can actually impede the success of the project. There's a lower cost in risk management. The team can focus on other areas instead of just going back and trying to fix mistakes that were made or changes that were made that affected the project. Next is unmanaged change. In a project where change is not managed properly, there's more energy invested at the back end. The team spends a lot of time focusing on real work because there are a lot of mistakes and a lot of changes that impede the success of the project. The team also has to deal with enforcement, compliance, and supervision. This also actually costs more time and money needed for the project, hence might lead to scope creep, because if not every change is managed, then next thing you know, all the changes are costing extra time, extra resources that actually could be utilized in other areas that could be very successful. And also crisis management would be very difficult to